Something felt wrong every time I came home, little things out of place. That Tuesday, I walked into my office. The file cabinet wasn't closed. My property deeds were mixed up. Someone had been searching through my papers. I was trying to figure out who, when I heard a knock at the door. George, my neighbor, stood there, looking worried. He leaned close and whispered, "Don't be home at noon. Watch from a distance. You'll see everything." I installed a hidden camera. At noon, I checked the feed. What I saw left me speechless. I'm grateful you're here. Before we go deeper into what I discovered that Tuesday morning, tell me, where are you watching this from, and what time is it there? 71 years running a construction company in Portland teaches you to notice things other people miss. And that Tuesday morning, when I walked into my home office, something felt wrong. The file cabinet drawer wasn't completely closed. I always close it tight, because the wood swells in the rain and sticks if you leave it open. But there it was, slightly ajar, just enough to catch my eye. I walked over slowly. My boots made no sound on the hardwood floor I'd laid myself 35 years ago. I pulled the drawer open and looked inside. The property deeds were out of order. I keep them organized by date, always have. The Mount Hood cabin deed was stuffed behind the Portland house papers. The Cannon Beach condo was crumpled at the bottom. Someone had been looking through my things. I sat down in the old leather chair Charlotte bought me 20 years ago before the cancer took her. The small wooden box where I keep my will and insurance papers was facing the wrong direction. I always keep the latch facing me. Now it faced the window. I opened the box. The papers were there, but they'd been unfolded and refolded. The creases were different. Someone had read them. My heart started beating faster. Only 3 people had keys to this house. Me, my son Brandon, and my daughter-in-law Vanessa. I thought back to dinner last Sunday at their place in Lake Oswego. Big house pool, 3-car garage. Brandon had poured me wine and asked, "Dad, have you thought about your estate plan lately?" "You're getting older. Maybe it's time to simplify things." Vanessa had nodded, all concern. "You deserve to relax. Let someone else worry about the business." I'd changed the subject, but the words stayed with me. I'd seen their credit card statements last Thanksgiving left out on the kitchen counter. They were drowning in debt. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. George Miller stood there, my neighbor of 20 years, retired police officer. He looked troubled. "Richard, I need to talk to you. It's important." I let him in. He hesitated, then said, "I didn't want to say anything, but your son and his wife have been coming by a lot lately. Always when you're at work. Sometimes they bring another man. Tall guy, gray suit, briefcase?" My stomach dropped. "How often?" 3, maybe 4 times in the last 2 weeks. They stay an hour or 2. He pulled out a piece of paper. "The man drives a black Mercedes with a lawyer's parking sticker. I wrote down his plate number." He slid the paper across. My hands shook slightly as I took it. George leaned forward, his cop instinct still sharp. "Richard, whatever's going on, be careful. Family can hurt you worse than any stranger." George left. I stood in my office holding the license plate number. The pieces were clicking into place. If they were coming with a lawyer multiple times, this wasn't just curiosity. I needed evidence, not suspicion. I drove to Morgan Construction. Rachel Turner, my project manager of 10 years, took one look at me. "You okay, boss? You look pale." "I'm fine, just tired." I wasn't fine. I left and drove to an electronics store on Hawthorne Boulevard. A young salesman showed me a wireless camera the size of a matchbox. "Connects to your phone. Motion activated. Saves to the cloud." I bought it. Paid cash. Back home, I hid the camera behind a family photo on my bookshelf. The lens was invisible between the frame and wall. I tested it on my phone. Crystal clear view of my entire office. Now I needed to give them an opportunity. I called Brandon. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, son, just wanted to let you know I have a heart checkup tomorrow. Doctor wants to run some tests. I'll be at the hospital most of the day." A pause. "Oh no, Dad, is everything all right?" "Just routine. At my age, they check everything." "Do you want me to come with you?" No, you have work. Call me when you're done, okay?" I hung up. My heart was pounding. The trap was set. That night, I barely slept. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. But George had been a cop for 30 years. He wouldn't lie. Wednesday morning, I left at 9. Drove to the hospital, parked for 10 minutes. Long enough to make it look real. Then I drove back and parked on a side street 2 blocks from my house. From here, I could see my driveway but stay hidden. The rain drummed on the roof of my truck. I opened the camera app. My office appeared on the screen, empty and waiting. I sat there for 2 hours, coffee going cold in the cup holder. At 11:30, George came running toward my truck, moving faster than any 73-year-old should. I rolled down the window. He was breathing hard. Watch what happens at noon. That's when they always come. That's when you'll see everything. He didn't wait for a response, just jogged back to his house. My hands were shaking. I checked my watch. 11:35. 25 minutes. I stared at the phone screen. At exactly noon, a silver BMW pulled into my driveway. Brandon got out of the driver's seat. Vanessa got out of the passenger side. And from the back seat, a tall man in a gray suit carrying a leather briefcase stepped out, just like George had described. They walked to my front door. Brandon used his key. I watched them disappear inside, then looked down at my phone screen. Seconds later, they appeared in my office. The image was perfect. I could see everything. Brandon went straight to the file cabinet and pulled out the property deeds. He spread them across my desk like a gambler laying out cards. Vanessa and the lawyer stood behind him, looking over his shoulder. "Everything is here," Vanessa said. Her voice came through my phone speakers clear as day. "The house, the cabin, the condo, the company shares." The lawyer opened his briefcase and took out a stack of documents. "I have prepared the transfer forms. All we need is his signature." Vanessa smiled. I could see it even on the small screen. "He'll sign. Once we convince him he needs to go to the care home, he'll sign anything." The lawyer looked uncertain. "Are you sure he'll agree?" Brandon picked up one of the deeds. For a moment, he just stared at it. I saw something cross his face. Doubt, maybe. Or guilt. But then Vanessa laughed. It was a sound I'd never heard from her before. Cold. Empty. "He doesn't have to agree," she said. "We have Dr. Shaw on board. He'll certify Dad has early dementia. Once we have that diagnosis, we can get power of attorney. Then we control everything." The words hit me like a physical blow. My own son planning to have me declared incompetent. Planning to lock me away. Brandon held up the Mount Hood cabin deed. "This one alone is worth $1.8 million. Vanessa nodded, already calculating. "The Portland house is at least 3.5, and the company we can sell it for 8, maybe 9 million. The lawyer was writing everything down. "The sooner we move him out," Brandon said quietly, "the sooner we can start." Vanessa pulled out her phone. "I'll call Dr. Shaw today. We need to move fast." They spent the next 20 minutes going through documents. The lawyer showed them forms, explained procedures. They talked about filing for guardianship, about transferring titles, about liquidating assets. They talked about me like I was already dead, like I was a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. 47 years of building Morgan Construction from nothing. 35 years in the house I'd built with my own hands. They were discussing it all like items at an estate sale. "Once he's in the care home," Vanessa said at one point, "he won't even know what's happening. These places keep them pretty medicated." Brandon didn't respond to that. He was looking at one of the photos on my desk, him and Charlotte at his college graduation. But he didn't say anything. Finally, they gathered up the documents. The lawyer put everything back in his briefcase. They left my office and I heard the front door close. Through my windshield, I watched them get back in the BMW. They were laughing about something as they drove away. I sat in my truck hands, shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. The rain was falling harder now, hammering on the roof. But I wasn't shaking from the cold. I was shaking with rage. This wasn't just about money. They weren't just planning to steal my assets. They were planning to steal my freedom, my dignity, my very identity. They were going to lock me in some facility and drug me into compliance while they sold off everything I'd built. My son, my only child, and Vanessa, that cold laugh still echoing in my ears. That night I sat in the dark in my living room. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't eat dinner. I just sat there thinking. Rain fell outside on the cedar trees I'd planted 35 years ago when I built this house. The sound should have been soothing. It wasn't. I kept seeing that cold smile on Vanessa's face. Kept hearing Brandon's quiet voice saying they needed to move fast. My son, planning to lock me away. At what point did I lose him? Was it when Charlotte died and I buried myself in work to escape the grief? Was it when I gave him everything he wanted and never taught him what it meant to earn? Was it all those school plays I missed because I was bidding on contracts? Or was it when I paid for his wedding to Vanessa, even though something about her had always felt wrong? I remembered Brandon as a little boy showing up at construction sites, wearing a hard hat 3 sizes too big, asking 1,000 questions, looking at me like I was the smartest man in the world. I remembered him at Charlotte's bedside holding her hand as she died. He was only 22. We cried together that night. I remembered him kissing my cheek every Christmas morning. I love you, Dad. Where did that boy go? The questions burned, but sitting there in the dark, I realized something. The answers didn't matter anymore. What mattered was now, and right now Brandon had made his choice. I barely slept. When morning finally came, I picked up my phone and called Stephen Mitchell. He'd been my lawyer for 25 years. If anyone could help me, it was him. He answered on the second ring. Richard, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Stephen, I need to see you today. It's urgent. Come to my office at 10. I arrived at his downtown office near Pioneer Place at exactly 10 o'clock. Stephen was waiting with a pot of tea and worry written all over his face. Tell me everything, he said. I showed him the video on my phone. He watched it once, then asked to watch it again. His expression grew darker with each viewing. When it finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned back in his chair. This is fraud, he said. Conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, and if they're planning to falsify a dementia diagnosis, that's criminal. What can I do? Stephen's voice was firm. First, we protect your assets. Today, we're going to transfer everything into a trust. A trust? You'll still control everything, but legally the assets will belong to the trust. That means even if Brandon gets power of attorney over you personally, he can't touch the trust assets. Can we do that quickly? By end of day. I'll call in favors. I've been your lawyer for 25 years. People owe me. He started making notes. Then he looked up at me. There's something else we need to discuss. Do you want to press charges now, or do you want to wait and catch them in the act? Stephen explained the options while we started the trust paperwork. We could press charges now based on the video, he said. But right now they can claim they were just discussing options. Just planning. If they actually present forged documents in court, if they actually try to execute this plan, that's when the charges stick. That's when there's no defense. How long do we have? Based on what they said in the video, maybe a week, maybe 2. Once they get that fake diagnosis from Dr. Shaw, they'll move for power of attorney. I nodded. Let them make their move. I want them caught red-handed. Stephen started making calls. Property deeds and company documents spread across his desk. He was pulling favors, calling in debts from 25 years of practicing law. Then his phone rang. He answered, Yes? What? Send it to me now. His face went pale. He typed something on his computer, stared at the screen, and his expression darkened even more. Richard, sit down. I'm already sitting. Then hold on to something. He turned his laptop toward me. While running title searches for the trust transfer, my paralegal found something in the probate court database. A document filled the screen, a will, filed 2 weeks ago, supposedly signed by me, dated 2 weeks before I'd found the rifled files. I stared at it, unable to process what I was seeing. According to this document, I was leaving everything to Brandon. Vanessa was named executor. But I didn't. I never signed that. Stephen's voice was grim. I know you didn't. He zoomed in on the signature. It looked close. Damn close. But it wasn't mine. I'm sending this to a forensic handwriting analyst right now, Stephen said. But Richard, do you understand what this means? My mind was racing, trying to catch up. This is their backup plan, Stephen continued. If guardianship fails, if they can't get you declared incompetent, they already have this fake will, waiting. They could claim you died, or they could make sure you... He stopped. Say it. If they're desperate enough to forge a will, if they've planned this thoroughly, we can't assume anything about their limits. The words hung in the air. This wasn't just about stealing my money while I was alive. They'd prepared for when I was gone. What do I do? Stephen leaned forward, his voice firm. You need to stay safe. If they're this desperate, don't be alone with them. Don't go anywhere with them. Don't eat or drink anything they give you. I felt cold, my own son, my own blood. Stay with someone, Stephen said. George? Yes, I can stay with George. Do it tonight. Don't go home alone. That evening I packed a bag at my house. My hands were shaking. I kept looking over my shoulder even though I knew they weren't there. I drove the 30 feet to George's house and knocked on his door. He took one look at my face and the bag in my hand. Come in, he said. Stay as long as you need. I stepped inside. George closed the door behind me, locked it, then put the chain on. That night I lay in his guest bed, staring at the ceiling. If they were willing to forge my will, what else were they willing to do? Over the next 2 weeks, I stayed at George's house and kept watching. The camera stayed on, recording every time they entered my office. They came back twice more. Each time, Brandon, Vanessa, and the lawyer reviewed documents and discussed timelines. On the third visit, I heard something that made my blood freeze. Thursday, Vanessa said, checking her phone calendar. Dr. Shaw files the assessment Thursday morning. Friday, we go to court for the emergency guardianship. By Friday afternoon, we control everything. The lawyer nodded, making notes. And the will is already in the system. If anything goes wrong with the guardianship route, we have the backup ready. Brandon said nothing, just stared at the papers on my desk. I called Stephen immediately. He listened to the recording and said, Friday. That gives us 4 days. I'll coordinate with the police. We'll be ready. On Wednesday evening, my phone rang. Brandon. Hey, Dad. Can we have lunch tomorrow? There's something I want to discuss with you. My chest tightened. Sure, son. Where? The Heathman. 1 o'clock. Mom used to love that place, remember? The manipulation was calculated, using Charlotte's memory to soften me up. I remember. I'll be there. Stephen told me to go to record the conversation, but to agree to nothing. The Heathman restaurant sat in downtown Portland, elegant and quiet. Charlotte and I had celebrated our 30th anniversary there 3 months before the cancer diagnosis. Walking in now felt like stepping into a ghost. Brandon was already seated by the window. He stood when he saw me smile, that familiar smile. For a moment, I almost forgot what he was planning. Almost. Dad, thanks for coming. We sat. He ordered for both of us, trying to take control even here. Dad, I've been thinking a lot about you lately. About your health, your workload. You're 71. You should be enjoying life, not running the company. I enjoy my work. I know you do. But there are other ways to enjoy life. Have you ever thought about selling Morgan Construction? Some investors I know would pay top dollar. You could relax travel, maybe move somewhere quieter. Move where... There's a retirement community in Eugene. Beautiful place. Ocean views, gardens, people your own age. Everything taken care of. He leaned forward, sincere. The house is too big for you now, Dad. All those stairs, all that upkeep. It doesn't make sense anymore. I listened to him lie to my face, using words like care and concern when what he meant was money and control. And what happens to me after I sell everything? You'd be comfortable, secure. We'd make sure of that. Vanessa and I, we'd help manage things for you. Take the burden off your shoulders. I set down my fork, looked him straight in the eye. Are you trying to help me? Or are you trying to help yourself? Something changed in his face. The mask slipped just for a second. Dad, I don't know what you're... Yes, you do. The restaurant noise faded. We stared at each other across the table. Brandon pulled his hands back from the table. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. We stared at each other across the white tablecloth, the Portland rain streaming down the restaurant windows behind him. Dad, you're not well. You're confused. That's exactly why we need to take steps now before things get worse. What steps, Brandon, signing over my properties to you? Moving me to a care home, having a doctor declare me incompetent. His face went pale. Who told you that? I kept my voice steady. No one told me. I have eyes. I have ears. And I have a camera in my office. Complete silence. Something changed in Brandon's expression. The loving sun mask cracked, then shattered completely. Underneath was cold calculation. Fine, he said, his voice flat. You want to do this the hard way, we can do this the hard way. He leaned forward, all pretense gone. By Friday morning, you will be declared legally incapacitated. Dr. Shaw has already filed his report. The court hearing is at 9 a.m. Friday, and there's nothing you can do about it. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice calm. You would really do this to your own father. Brandon's face twisted with bitterness. You have so much, and you refuse to share. You just keep working, keep hoarding, keep controlling. Well, it's our turn now. Mine and Vanessa's. We deserve it. You deserve what you earn. You haven't earned anything. He stood up abruptly. We'll see about that. Enjoy your last day of freedom, Dad. He walked out without looking back. I sat alone, staring at my untouched coffee. Other diners glanced over, sensing the confrontation. I pulled out my phone. The recording app was still running. It had captured everything. I called Stephen immediately. It's happening Friday, 9 a.m., the court hearing. I know. I already spoke with the police. They'll be there. Wednesday night, I lay on George's guest bed, unable to sleep. Stared at the ceiling, listening to Portland rain hammer the windows. Brandon's cold voice replayed in my mind, we deserve it. Thursday crawled by in tense preparation. Stephen coordinated with Portland police. We reviewed all the evidence surveillance videos. audio recordings, the forensic report on the forged will. I stayed at George's house, barely eating, barely speaking, just waiting. Thursday night, another sleepless night. I thought about 47 years building Morgan construction from nothing. 35 years in the house I built with my own hands. 20 years of memories with Charlotte in that house. Tomorrow everything would come to a head. Friday morning, 8:30 a.m. I arrived at the Multnomah County Courthouse in downtown Portland. The gray stone building loomed imposing. Stephen waited at the entrance with two plainclothes police officers. "Are you ready?" he asked. "As ready as I'll ever be." We walked in together, took the elevator to the second floor. The courtroom was at the end of the hall. Through the small window in the courtroom door, I could see them. Brandon sat at the front, Vanessa beside him, their lawyer next to them. And there in the white coat sat Dr. Shaw. They looked confident. "Relax, Stephen." They thought they'd already won. Stephen squeezed my shoulder. "Wait here. Let them make their move first." I watched through the courtroom window as the hearing began. Friday morning, 9 o'clock exactly. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "All rise." Brandon's lawyer stood addressing the court. "Your Honor, we petition for emergency guardianship over Richard Morgan. Mr. Morgan is 71 and showing cognitive decline. We have a medical assessment from Dr. Kenneth Shaw confirming early-stage dementia. We request his son Brandon Morgan be appointed legal guardian with full power of attorney." The judge examined the documents carefully. "These are serious claims. Is Mr. Morgan present?" "Your Honor, he was not informed due to concerns about his mental state." The judge frowned. "You're asking me to strip a man of his autonomy without his presence?" "Your Honor, given his condition." Stephen Mitchell pushed the courtroom doors open. Everyone turned. I walked in behind Stephen, two plainclothes officers following, head high, shoulders back. Stephen's voice rang out. "Your Honor, I am Stephen Mitchell, counsel for Richard Morgan. Mr. Morgan is very much present, very much competent, and very much aware of what is happening here." Brandon spun around. His face went white. Vanessa hissed, "What are you doing here?" I stood next to Stephen. "I am exercising my right to defend myself." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Morgan, are you represented by counsel?" "I am, Your Honor. Mr. Mitchell has represented me for 25 years. "Very well. Mr. Mitchell, what do you have to say about this petition?" Stephen stepped forward. "Your Honor, I am submitting evidence that this petition is based on fraud. The medical assessment from Dr. Shaw was falsified. Mr. Morgan has never been examined by this doctor." The judge's expression hardened. "Furthermore, we have video evidence of the petitioners conspiring to steal Mr. Morgan's assets through forged documents and a fabricated dementia diagnosis. We also have audio recordings of Brandon Morgan admitting to this conspiracy at the Heathman restaurant yesterday." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. "Order." The judge's voice cut through. Brandon shot to his feet. "This is ridiculous. He's lying. He's confused. That's exactly why he needs a guardian." "Sit down, Mr. Morgan." Brandon hesitated. I said, "Sit down." He sat. Vanessa gripped his arm. The judge turned to the man in the white coat. "Dr. Shaw, you filed a medical assessment declaring Mr. Morgan mentally incapacitated. Did you examine Mr. Morgan in person?" Dr. Shaw shifted uncomfortably. Sweat beaded on his forehead. I reviewed his medical records and made an assessment based on—" "Did you examine him in person, doctor, yes or no?" "Not exactly, but in cases like these—" The judge's voice went cold. "That is perjury, doctor. You filed a sworn statement claiming to have examined a patient you never met." Dr. Shaw went pale. The judge made a note, her pen scratching loudly. She turned to Brandon's lawyer. "And you, counsel, if you knowingly submitted a falsified medical report to this court, you are looking at criminal charges." The lawyer started sweating. "Your Honor, I was not aware that." "Save it for your own trial." Stephen wasn't finished. "Your Honor, there's more." He submitted additional documents. 2 weeks ago, a will was filed with the probate division of this court, purportedly bearing Richard Morgan's signature. This will leaves Mr. Morgan's entire estate to Brandon Morgan and names Vanessa Morgan as executor. The judge examined the documents, her expression darkening. "Mr. Morgan did not sign that document. We have forensic handwriting analysis confirming the signature was forged." The judge's voice went hard. "This isn't just fraud. This is criminal conspiracy to commit estate theft, forgery, elder abuse, and possibly worse." The courtroom fell silent. Vanessa stood abruptly. "You can't prove any of this. He's a confused old man who—" Sit down, Mrs. Morgan. Vanessa didn't sit. He probably recorded a conversation out of context. I said sit down, or I will hold you in contempt of court. Vanessa slowly sat glaring. Stephen connected his laptop to the courtroom display. Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to play a brief excerpt from the surveillance video. The judge nodded. The screen showed Richard's office. Brandon, Vanessa, and the lawyer appeared. Vanessa's voice, we have Dr. Shaw on board. He'll certify Dad has early dementia. Once we have that diagnosis, we get power of attorney. Then we control everything. Brandon on screen, this one alone is worth $1.8 million. Stephen played the audio from the Heathman. Brandon's voice, by Friday morning, you will be declared legally incapacitated. Dr. Shaw has already filed his report. The court hearing is at 9 a.m. Friday, and there's nothing you can do about it. Silence. The evidence was irrefutable. The judge looked toward the officers. Arrest these individuals. Brandon Morgan, Vanessa. Morgan, fraud conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, elder abuse. Dr. Kenneth Shaw, perjury, conspiracy, fraud. And counsel, fraud, conspiracy. An officer stepped forward. Brandon Morgan. Vanessa. Morgan, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. They handcuffed Brandon. He was crying now, tears streaming down his face. Dad, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Please help me. Richard looked at him for a long moment. This man had once been his little boy, the one who'd sat beside Charlotte's hospital bed, the one who'd kissed his cheek every Christmas morning. You made your choice, Brandon. Now you have to live with it. The officers led Brandon toward the door, sobbing. Vanessa walked behind him, handcuffed head high. She didn't cry. Cold and defiant to the end. She looked at Richard as she passed pure hatred in her eyes. Brandon's lawyer followed already on his phone. I need an attorney, right now. Dr. Shaw came last, shell-shocked, realizing his medical license was gone, his career finished. The courtroom fell quiet. The judge looked at Richard. Mr. Morgan, I'm sorry you had to go through this. The petition is denied. Your assets and your autonomy remain intact. Thank you, Your Honor. Richard walked out, Stephen beside him. Down the hall, into the elevator, out the front doors. Portland's sunshine blazed the first time in days. The rain had stopped. The city spread out before them, beautiful and indifferent. Stephen stopped on the courthouse steps. How are you feeling? Richard didn't answer right away. Relieved, sad, empty, angry, all of it at once. I just sent my son to prison. Stephen's voice was gentle. He sent himself to prison, Richard. You just made sure he didn't get away with it. They walked toward Stephen's car. Richard looked back at the courthouse. The sun was shining, but he felt cold. He had won. But what had he won? 3 months later, the trial concluded. Brandon, 4 years. Vanessa, 6 years as the mastermind. Dr. Shaw, 3 years medical license revoked. The lawyer, 2 years disbarred. Richard watched them led away. No satisfaction, just hollow sadness. He moved back to his West Hills house. Everything in its place, but the silence was deafening. George came for dinner every evening. 2 widowers keeping each other company. George never said, I told you so. Just, how are you today, Richard? At Morgan Construction, Richard promoted Rachel Turner to vice president. You built something good here, boss. I'll take care of it. The company continued. 40 families still had jobs. The legacy would survive. Richard volunteered with Habitat for Humanity, building homes, teaching young people carpentry. It gave him purpose. He sold the Matt Hood cabin. Too many memories that now felt like lies. But he kept the West Hills house, the one he'd built with his own hands. 6 months after sentencing, a letter arrived from Oregon State Prison. From Brandon. Richard held it 3 days before opening it. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness, but I need to write this. I'm sorry. I spent my whole life thinking you owed me something. I convinced myself that taking from you wasn't really stealing. I was wrong. You built everything with your own hands. You worked 80-hour weeks so I could have a good life. And instead of being grateful, I resented you. Vanessa fed that resentment, and I believed her because I wanted to. Now I'm in a cell with nothing but time to think. I think about Mom, what she would say if she saw what I became. She would be ashamed. I am ashamed. Take care of yourself, Dad. Brandon. Richard read it twice, sat quietly, folded it carefully, and put it in his desk drawer. He didn't write back, maybe someday, but not yet. 2 years have passed. Morgan Construction runs strong. Rachel's doing well. George and Richard still have dinner most nights. Sometimes Richard volunteers with Habitat. Life goes on. He sits in his office one evening looking at family photos. Brandon as a baby at graduation on his wedding day. He wonders where he went wrong, what he could have done differently. He doesn't have answers. Maybe there are none. But Richard knows this. He did the right thing. The hard thing. The thing that cost him his only child. And he would do it again. Because a man who doesn't defend what's his isn't a man, he's a victim. And Richard Morgan refuses to be a victim. He learned that respect isn't inherited, it's earned. That family isn't defined by blood, it's defined by trust and loyalty. That sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who hurt you worst. Rain falls on the cedar trees in his backyard, trees he planted 35 years ago. The house stands solid. The company still employs 40 families, the legacy intact even if the heir is gone. He stands at the window. Portland spreads below lights in the rain. Life carries on. His life carries on. Without Brandon, but not without purpose. Not without dignity. Not without knowing he did the right thing. That would be enough. Looking back on this true story, I see an old man who built an empire but nearly lost his soul defending it. This is one of those grandpa stories you think could never happen to you. But it did. And it could. Don't be like me. Don't wait until your family stands in court handcuffed and crying to realize something went wrong years ago. Don't work so hard building a legacy that you forget to build a relationship. The true story here isn't about betrayal. It's about what comes before. God gave me a son, and I gave him money. God gave me time, and I gave it to concrete and lumber. God gave me a family, and I chose my company. I gave Brandon everything except what he needed: my time, my presence, my attention. These grandpa stories aren't meant to entertain. They're meant to warn you. Be present with your children. Teach them values, not just valuables. Show them that wealth means nothing without character. Success means nothing without integrity. Yes, I did the right thing. I stood up for myself. I refused to be a victim. But I ask myself every day, could I have prevented this true story from becoming a tragedy if I'd been a better father? I'll never know. But you still have time. You can choose differently. Don't let your grandpa stories end like mine, with justice served but a family destroyed. Build your legacy, but build your relationships first. That's the lesson I learned too late. Don't let it be yours.